Okay. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Okay. This is the regular meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission. Today is June 17th, 2021. Seeing a quorum, this meeting is officially called to order. Madam Recording Secretary, please take roll call.
Frank Gutierrez,
Here.
Robin McNair,
Here.
Fernando Olivares,
Here.
Jose Hernandez,
Here.
Deborah Russell,
Here.
Indigo Wu,
Here.
Andrea Harris.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the Arts and Cultural Commission regarding any non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. No action may be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission? Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have any public comments at this moment?
I have Victor from Massa Media Art.
Okay, just so long as, keep them at 3 minutes, okay, please?
You got
Yes.
it. Okay.
All right, Victor,
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing today?
doing?
Very excited to see you. We have quite a lot going on with Media Arts Santa Ana, and I want to do a couple of statements on what we're doing. We are currently taking applications for our Millennial Producers Academy, MILPA. We're offering free classes to Santa Ana residents. The first class starts in July and is for 18 to 24 and is a virtual class. We're giving people skills on how to be producers, how to film, how to use apps. We want to connect people from the whole community. I'm asking for your help to reach out to your constituencies. We want dreamers, we want trans, we want Asian American, we want the different communities represented to teach them how to advocate better for themselves and how to make content that really serves our community. So the first session is 18 to 24, virtual, free. And then we're following up with 2 sessions that are in person, ages 13 to 17. So we're really excited about those. The first is July, August, and then second, September, October, 3rd, November, December. I'll be sending you information. It's on our website, massamedia.org. Please spread the word and contact me if you have any questions at victor@massamedia.org. The second thing is that we are taking submissions for our 12th OC Film Fiesta, which will also be virtual and in person. We had great success last year, and we just finished our, what do you call it, our early bird deadline. We're getting great submissions from all over the country, all over the world, but we really want Orange County and Santa Ana filmmakers represented. So you go to, again, massamedia.org or ocfilmfiesta.org, and you'll find information. The festival dates are October 14th through the 24th. And if you have organizations that would like to partner with us with programming or public events or parties, let me know. victor@massamedia.org. The third thing I wanted to talk about Art Walk, I sent an email through for the public comment, is I'd like to request to make a presentation to the Arts Walk subcommittee. I see that there's the previous speaker and there's a speaker queued up to give a presentation that are both employed by Downtown Inc. And we really need to ensure equity and diversity in the discussion, get different ideas and opinions and visions and people's different experience, reaching out to different communities, what they can bring to the table, what they want. I served on the Arts Master Plan Steering Committee, and there was a lot of discussion of what people wanted from our sessions with immigrants, LGBT, homeless, veterans. So we really need to get all the best voices at the table. And it just concerns me that it seems like there's access to 2 people from the same organization. Not a good way to start the conversation, but definitely don't want to end on that tack. And I would like to make a presentation. Let me know what the procedure is, when I can do that. And my experience, I have experience working on events like Chicano Park Day, of course, the Film Fiesta. We did a Taste of Santa Ana. We did a Quinceañera Expo. We've worked on the City Heights International Village Celebration and Adams Avenue Street Fair in San Diego. And I've been a consultant for groups like California Presenters, Association of California Traditional Arts, the Latino engagement person for the Bowers, and I've worked as, like I've mentioned before, with the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture. So those are
Victor,
the main
your
three
time
things.
is up.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have another public comment?
Yes, Keith the wine. Where did he go? He's right here. Keith, if you can hear me, go ahead. He's muted.
I believe I did see him in a car, so there's a chance he may be driving.
My name is Evelyn Alou. Am I on?
Yeah, go ahead, Evelyn.
Okay, my name is Evelyn Alou, and I am the Assistant Executive Director for OCA. We have started a program, a community outreach program that I thought you would like to know about, and I don't know if you know anything about it at this point. We are painting soul birds, and I would like for the community to get involved. The plan is to paint the soul birds and have them installed on the outside of the building as a huge flock. So far, I hold little sessions every Saturday morning, 9:30 to 11:30, and invite people to come and paint these incredible things. So far, we've done, I don't know, can you see these? I can't see if I'm on or not, but anyway, they can do this free of charge, no charge, and we've had so far approximately 200 birds painted, and it's going to be quite a beautiful sight. Now, I've come to you with hoping that you could help me figure out how to get it out to the general community of Santa Ana, and to let them know that they're welcome to come into the gallery to paint birds and to have them installed on the building. I just think it is and it has to do with COVID, the COVID pandemic. So we've had beautiful birds in memory of people who have passed away due to COVID, or it might just be painted with wonderful something that happened or they did within the last year while they were being shut in. So I just thought you would like to know, and I'm bringing that to you, and with any suggestions you may have for me that would help me to get this out to the community more. That's it.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Do we have another? public
Yes, we have two more. We have next Jenny Bernal. Go ahead.
Yes, hello everybody. Good evening. Let me see. I don't know if I can turn my camera as well. Oh, it is acceptable. Okay. So hello everybody. My name is Jenny Bernal, and I am a visual artist, as well as an art teacher with the after school program through OCTAC. And also I'm a small business owner with our events, and I was the ARWA coordinator for downtown Santa Ana. I want to make a quick clarification that I actually do not work with Downtown Inc. currently. Ever since we had to unfortunately cancel our walks, which was in September, I have no longer been employed by them. So I just want to make sure that people please stop spreading misinformation, because it's sad that after 7 years of dedication to this event, that somebody would think that my information wouldn't be valid or proper, which I think it is. So I'm very grateful. Thank you guys for allowing us to feel represented. I am really excited. We've been following everything that's been happening with you guys and with the Arts Commission. So I just had a couple of things that I wanted to thank you very much. I saw that we got 100K in the already. So thank you. That's amazing. I know it's not what we were hoping for, but it's amazing. And also, as I was reading this, I noticed that it says that there's $1.1 million that is going to go to youth or alternatives. Why not together? I mean, the alternative is that we need art for our youth. I'm a teacher, I'm an artist, I suffer from anxiety. I've dealt with a lot of mental illness within my own family. So I feel it's very valid that we should invest in the arts for our community. So I really want to keep pushing for that. I also wanted to say that I'm worried worried about current situation in downtown. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a lot of violence, a lot of drunk people doing things they're not supposed to be doing. So obviously that's why artists are so needed, because we bring peace, we bring culture. We never saw those kind of activities or crimes happening while those 6 years that I was ARWA coordinator. So it is,
Jenny, I'm sorry, your time is up.
thank you.
3 minutes
Thank you,
are up.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keith, do you still want to make a public comment? You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, terrific. So I'm driving, so it's a little harder. I think what I really want to say right off the bat is I hear that there's only going to be $1 million allocated to the city of Santa Ana for arts and culture. And I completely disagree with that. With the amount of time that I myself and my friends put into the basically raised it from a complete ghetto-ridden town that everybody wanted to discard. I think you guys are selling yourselves short when you're only asking for $1 million. I would be asking for $10 to $15 million. I would ask for a stronger commitment from the city for the arts, because the arts are what have brought the city back to life. It is what has driven the commerce and which will continue to drive the commerce in the city. Now, I'm an arts guy. I left the city of Santa Ana because I just don't feel that the commitment for the arts has been strong enough. I'm down in Costa Mesa and I just finished running for planning commissioner. I'm also on an advisement committee for the city of Newport Beach and their arts scene. The time and the energy I'm giving to these cities could have been given to Santa Ana. I'm a real estate guy these days, but I'm also an artist. And, you know, I've been on an advisory committee with the city of Newport Beach saying, hey, look, you guys own all the property around John Wayne Airport, and maybe you should start doing artist housing, artist projects around the airport. And so what's happening is you're slowly losing and siphoning off talent to other cities because you aren't committing enough to the arts. If I see a commitment and people going to city council meetings saying we need and we deserve more than $1.1 million, then people like me will come back to the city and I will tell all of my friends, hey, Santa Ana is doubling and tripling down in their commitment for the arts. But I don't see it right now. And I, for one, don't want to participate as much with the city of Santa Ana. I want to, but I'm not seeing like in the old days, we got our hands really dirty, dug in hard. I went and got the School of the Arts out of Los Alamitos and made the recommendation to the city council because I had a niece and a nephew that were at the Los Alamitos School of the Arts. It took a lot of groundwork. I'm not seeing the commitment from the artists and the people in the city of Santa Ana. And then I hear all these other issues with the Santa Ana Arts Walk. So that's about all I have to say right now. It's a lot to chew on, but I really would like to see Santa Ana and the city government back the arts. I don't feel it, and I'm not going to make recommendations to my friends until I do. And if I do see it, I will go.
Skip, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that the end of our public comment?
No, I have one more.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Sandra Pocha Peña. I'm a Santa Ana native and a resident of the Pacific Park Eastside neighborhood. I'm also a neighborhood leader and a historic resources commissioner. So I'm going to comment on a couple things. First, starting off with the South Main Public Art. The RFP has already gone out, and I'm excited to see all the submissions. But as one of the, as one of the leaders of a bordering neighborhood to South Main, and having worked on vision and the branding and, what we residents and business owners would like to see on South Main, we really want the history to be emphasized. So I encourage you all to, get the word out that South Main residents and businesses have for a decade been been advocating for the branding of South Main to really spotlight and celebrate our fabulous South Main history. So I encourage all you commissioners to please familiarize yourselves with South Main history. There's a South Main history notes packet already on the website in the RFP section for the South Main Call for Art. So please check it out. There's video links. There's a lot of great resources. It's really amazing everything that has happened on South Main that has affected global arts and culture. Everything from the Righteous Brothers to the Sugar Beet Factory and just Marlon Brando. There's a lot of great history on South Main. Also, please consider extending the deadline so that artists have a chance to really put together something, a really fabulous celebration of our South Main history. Next, I just wanted to touch upon Art Walk. Y'all already received, I believe, my notes and proposal to have Art Walk spotlight each ward twice, each year. Also to partner with SAUSD, instead of just having them fill out a slot, having them actually be an active partner, and also divesting from the downtown bids. It seems like a lot of people have issues with the lack of equity and transparency. So I would encourage that. And then also, as we're on the topic of equity, I see that you're going to have a proposal by the former Art Walk coordinator, Yenny Bernal. In the interest of equity, I just encourage you to also invite a proposal by Skeeth DeWine, who you just heard from, as he is one of the Art Walk founders, and also other experts in events here in our city. And that would bring really true equity to the Arts Walk discussion. And with that, thank you so much. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Sandra. Is that the final public speaker?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
If you give me a second, Frank, for all the public members, if you're already done with the public comments, I will put you back on the waiting room. If you want to listen to the meeting, you can do it via the YouTube channel. Thank you. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, so with that finalized, we go into our consent calendar. This is the time for the commission to consider matters under consent. We have our minutes from the last meeting. Do we have any issues with that? Do we have with regards to our first point of consent? Can you hear me?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay. Apart from that, our other point is with respect to any excused absences, we don't have any.
Point of order, I think we need to vote on the approval of the minutes.
Oh, yes, we do. Thank you, Robin. Yes, let's vote on the approval of the minutes. Bianca?
One moment. Okay. Robin, motion, correct?
Yes.
And Andrea, second.
Yes.
Okay. Frank Gutierrez,
Yes.
Robin McNair,
Yes.
Fernando Olivares,
Yes.
Jose Hernandez,
Yes.
Deborah Russell,
Yes.
Indigo Wu,
Yes.
Andrea Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll pass.
Our second item, I don't think, we don't have any absentees. Am I correct? Excuse absentees.
No, no absence. Everybody's
Okay.
present.
So if that is an issue, then we're done with our consent calendar. We're going to go ahead and move into our presentations. We have one presentation. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on this item. The first item is the Arts and Culture Master Plan. So that's basically the presentation we will be speaking about. And I'll make one point on that before we begin. And I am of the belief of what Mr. Skeeth says, maybe because, I deal with business. And honestly, if I don't see the funding seriously on the table, it means that that's a lack of interest and commitment. And I always put that as a priority because that's what makes things possible. I wish it could be done differently, but it's not. So with that in mind, we have to look at it, how much funds we have, so we could actually accomplish the objectives we have on the table. So if that said, our presentation on the Master Arts Plan. Bianca?
Point of order, are we actually having a presentation or is this a discussion? opportunities.
It's more of a discussion, I think at this point, because basically we had at one point considered not having this meeting, okay? But it was brought to the table that we could speak about the master plan. And it was meant to be that way because we didn't know exactly how much funding we had at that point. And do we have any commitments of funding at this point, Tram, from your knowledge?
Not that I know. It's just, I hear whatever you've heard too.
Okay, so we basically are at zero. So if we're at zero, I would like for your opinion about where we're at zero as far as funding and what can we do with zero. So I want you to put that in your mind and go ahead at it.
Actually, I'd like to offer that. I read an article that was sent out through Nixle that $100,000 was put toward arts and culture events in Santa Ana. It's my understanding that it's a one-time, not sustained funding. I agree with you, Frank, that we do need to secure sustained funding, but my understanding is that we do have $100,000 related to sponsoring the sponsorship of arts and culture events in the city.
But I also want to clarify that it still hasn't been confirmed from the rest of staff and everything. So we're not exactly sure what all of that means.
What's the timeline do you expect?
I'm not sure either. I'm sorry. Mark, do you happen?
No, I think we're still waiting for direction from the city manager's office in terms of the budget. I would hope within the next 2 weeks that we would get more clarity on it. So.
Okay, if that is so,
correct me if I'm wrong, but the Santa Ana Revive Funds, City Council won't be discussing that until the 29th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
so that being said, basically we're at zero right now. I mean, I wish we could say something different than that. And I would say if we do get $100,000, in my way of thinking is that maybe we could take some of that money and invest it on how we could get more money. And that's a strategic way of looking at it, okay? If we have to hire somebody to go after more money, that might be a very strategic way of using some of that money. But I leave you to think about that one. Do we have any other points based on zero funding from the rest of the commission?
Deborah has a comment.
I recall in my notes, Tram, when we met for the orientation for the commission, you had mentioned that there was a $5 allocation per Santa Ana resident in the general arts fund. And I was curious if you could elaborate on the current state of funding per resident toward any kind of arts events or anything. And I recall specifically too that you mentioned that a large percentage of that went to one arts institution here in Santa Ana.
Oh, yes. Well, the city does allocate funding to maintain the land that they own under the Bowers. So that's where they have allocated that money to the Bowers Museum to maintain that, the land itself. Other than that, we don't have any funding for programming or operations for arts and culture.
How much is that?
Don't quote me. I don't know exact number, but it's over $1 million. It's 1 point something.
And
Yeah.
I just wanted to say real quickly, and since we're supporting the Bowers, which I think is a wonderful institution, have they done anything for the community as far as giving access, admissions to our youth, giving access to people to be able to actually enjoy that museum? Because a while back I tried to go and take people and it's quite expensive. On
Yes.
top of the support they're getting, I don't think that's appropriate to our community. So maybe we need to have a talk about the partnerships we have and see how those are working for us.
I believe they do offer free entrance and free after school support, things like that for students. I'm not exactly sure what their programming is now.
Sundays
but
are free for families.
yeah.
Sundays are free now? Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
Is that funded though through the Bowers itself, or is that part of like the Target Sunday programs that a lot of museums in the area?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but the discussion of the Bowers is not on the agenda just yet. Okay. So we could hold that for when we talk about funding and all of that. But to just answer your question about $5 per person, that was based on that funding for the Bowers, plus what we used to get from the general funds. We used to get a budget of $275,000 from the general funds.
And what happened to that?
That was based on a strategic plan over 5 years. And so that strategic plan for the city has ended, and now we're entering into a new phase.
So at this point, it's kind of like, will we ever go back to getting 275,000? And really, that's where we're at. And how much will we get? Because basically, not until we have a number on the table can we strategically start thinking about what we can do with that money, unless we're able to get money from somebody or somebody else. I mean, I'd love to say that we don't get money. Maybe we have more cooperation in events from the Bowers, not just a Sunday, but maybe more than that. If we can do that, maybe we could have a relationship with people like the Seekerstrom people, even though it's in Costa Mesa, but it's a really good facility. And maybe we could do things that are related to schools like OSHA. OSHA has a fantastic program. Why not open it up for the community so they could see more of their events and what that school's about and what it does? I mean, we basically gave them the opportunity to be here in Santa Ana. I think their responsibility should be greater than just accepting people from all over Southern California. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, if I could chime in. So I think that it's important to contextualize also the conversation. And there was a time not too long ago when the city was on the verge of bankruptcy. And so, there was a lot of cuts, a lot of, to different programming. There was a lot of different cuts to staffing. So I think in that regard, which then prompted the sales tax to be raised, all these difficult decisions that, and also, not so decisions that I wasn't happy that the former council majority under Miguel Pulido did. So I think that there's a shift, but it's like shifting the Titanic. It takes time, to shift, the massive, behemoth that is, the whole city and, the staffing and everything to get to where we want it to be. Yeah, we should be back to the 200,000 plus, but we're not. But we are at 100,000, which is, or we will be, hopefully, not for certain yet, but it very much seems that it's almost certain that we will be having 100,000, to work with, and that's not where we would like it to be, nowhere near, but we still have a lot, to look forward to it, and optimism to bring to our community. So that's one thing I'll mention. I'll also mention that I don't think it's very fair to compare Santana to Newport or Costa Mesa. There's just different dynamics, different demographics. So, and there's, folks have left, and that is very much a reality, but a lot of folks haven't. And a lot of folks are still young people that are waiting, to be supported by this commission and by this council. And so I'll bring that into the conversation. But I have a question, Tram. So I know that in the past, there has been like grants that have been awarded to the city. Is that something that you and the staff with a department or departments works on, or how to, because I was, it was mentioned about hiring somebody to look for more money, but isn't that something that the city already does?
I think each agency works separately regarding, how they apply for grants. There's some agencies that are able to apply more effectively. So we have tried in the past. We never got a grant as the Arts and Culture Office. But it's a possibility to go out and apply for grants.
Maybe we can make a deal with Disney and we'll lease out 4th Street to make it a fantastic extension of Disney on 4th Street, Think about that one. But anyway, so then we're at a position where we're at zero funding, okay?
Fernando,
I had a question.
Fernando, do you have
I had a question. Yeah, I was raising my hand. So actually, I'm segueing off of what you just said. That was my question, actually, Frank. Trem, do we have are permits being allowed to use public spaces already, or is there still restrictions?
I believe so. I think you can start, yeah.
Okay,
Applying for
because yeah,
permits.
I'm sure there could be a lot of private organizations or groups that are willing to help out with putting together art events that are impactful to our community. So I wanted to know, because I know for a while there was people were I guess I was being told that they weren't going to open until July, but it's okay now.
Yes, I believe they're applying already.
Okay.
So Deborah, you have a question?
I know we just went very quickly over that 275 historical funding, and I was just curious if you could just elaborate on maybe a bit of the history. How did that funding come about? How long did it last, and what was it used for?
It came, like I said, from the strategic plan. They allocated this funding to arts and culture based on the master plan, and it was for 5 years. It was a 5-year strategic plan, and it was used for grants. It started the artist grant program, utility box program. It started that, and a chunk of it went. Well, when they hired this position, my position, then it was carved out of that funding, and used for public arts like the Wings of the City, professional development workshops. Let me think. I can't think of every little thing but basically it went back to the arts and arts organizations.
And to be clear, when you say the strategic plan, or because you mentioned strategic plan, master plan, we're talking about the arts master plan, right?
Based on the arts master plan, the general strategic plan for the city allocated that much money to the arts.
So that being said, I guess, does somebody want to speak up?
Yes, I also have a question. So does that mean then that of the funding that we are hopefully expecting to receive, does that mean that will also fund your position for this following fiscal year, Trev?
Oh no, that will be separate.
Okay.
They've separated it out, yes.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Deborah?
This is Robin.
Robin,
Deborah, were you done? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to clarify, from what I understand, we have a 10-year arts and culture master plan. It was approved for 10 years. We got funding for 5. And so there was no long-term plan for funding the entire arts and culture master plan for 10 years. Is that what I understand? Or am I conflating that with the city's general budget for 5 years?
It was the city's general budget for 5 years. And so every 5 years they reevaluate what the city priorities are.
And if you could also make the connection again between, so the 275,000 and how much of it is just automatically goes to the Bowers, or what's?
No. The 275 is separate from the Bowers money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible at a future meeting we could get some information about the Bowers and how arts funding is utilized by that institution?
I could ask them to present if you'd like.
Yeah, and I would be interested also in just a general budget breakdown that goes through the arts, whether to Bowers or to other offices or other positions, just so we know in total what the spending is currently on, so that we can and where the stream of funding comes from for those for that money, so that we can have a better picture of where we allocate money, if that's possible.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Vu, can you please repeat?
Yes,
what is it exactly you need?
No, I understand. I got a little bit lost in my words there too. Could we possibly get a presentation on the breakdown of all our streams of revenue and where they go, including for Bowers?
Currently, you mean, or?
Historically and currently, possibly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that would be it. It would really be, we got general funding from, from the general funds, the city's general fund coffers. They allocated $275 $275,000 per year for 5 years to the Arts and Culture Office. Now, what the Bowers received, that's not arts money. That's considered something else, land or whatever agreement they made with the Bowers. So that's separate. So with our money, that's, I kind of gave you a short, very brief breakdown of what we've spent it on. And there is no other streams of revenue. That's it, just the general funds. That we don't get cannabis money, we don't get anything else. I mean, with the CARES money, as you saw, we received 500,000, and then we distributed it all to the individual artists and arts organizations. But that didn't go, none of it went to the Arts and Culture Office. So we didn't get it in-house and staff at all. That all went back out. So we're just kind of a pass-through for that. And that's it. We don't have any other source of funding. Yes.
So if that's the thing, then our strategic plan should be, how can we get more funding from the simple to the complex? And at this point, we're at zero. I guess we could sit on our rear end and wait till see if we're going to get 100 grand in about 2 weeks or more. And at that point, we know exactly what we have on the table. Another point I did want to bring in is, like, if we look at Parks and Rec, how do you compare that commission and the kind of money they get as opposed to what we get?
Oh, I don't know Parks and Rec. So.
But it's a valid question. You look at other entities of the city and what kind of money are they getting and why are they getting what they're getting and we're getting zero? I mean, if Parks and Rec, I'm pretty sure they're getting cannabis money already as it is. And I'm pretty sure with the amount of parks they have a pretty decent amount of money. So if they value Parks and Rec and they give them that kind of money, why don't they value what we do? I mean, it's a valid question. I mean, it's kind of like, are we a joke or what?
I have another clarifying question. So it sounds like $100,000 is on the table from a general fund. It has nothing to do with the Revive Santa Ana. Are we still in a position to push? Because we asked for two separate things. We asked for money to help us in recovery, like what happened after the Depression era when they hired 40 million artists to be able to, was it 40,000? What was it?
Yeah.
40,000 artists in the recovery. So how do we, help in our recovery as arts community, but also this $100,000 seems like one-time funding, but then what about sustained funding? Like, what are our options to go after those sources?
Tram?
I think as what you've been doing is talking to your council members. They are the ones in control of the budget.
I wanted to make a quick comment about the letter that you guys sent in regards to our meeting. I wanted to thank you guys. You did an excellent job. I know that you guys, we are not allowed to respond to it or anything, but I wanted to say that it was very well done. And I'm very proud that you guys got that out. And also, I'd like to say that, when they talked about the Revive Santa Ana survey and they had the community contribute to that, voting on the things that they felt were critical to the recovery effort, 40%, a little over 40% of those people surveyed said that the arts and cultures were critical for the recovery of Santa Ana. And I find it to be very disheartening when the city is asking for public feedback and for surveys to be filled out, and yet they don't listen to the actual public response. And $100,000 of general fund and nothing from the recovery it really is very, very discouraging, but also I think that it says a lot about the voice of our community. And I want a city council and I want governance that's going to support our community and that's going to listen and, care about what our citizens feel and say. I was so proud that so many people did respond to Revive Santa Ana. I just want to say that, we need to make a change here. This can't continue to be the way we treat people, because everybody's now stepping forward and trying and want to recover and want to help one another. And yet we don't get funding to try and make that possible and to help people. So, we can't keep talking to our council members, which we are all pushing forward on, but why does this continue? Why does this kind of disrespect continue in this city, especially after everything that we've been through with COVID? I can't even understand it. I'm very conflicted. I'm very disheartened.
I guess one point is that Tram says it's a relationship with our city council representative. So I would say between now and our next meeting, I would give everybody some homework to ask specifically to your city council representative to give you that answer and see what that answer is. Okay, that means I'll ask Hilda to give me an answer of why we are not being funded. And I would expect you could do that to each one of your council representatives, because at the end of the day, it's our influence on their decision. And if we don't pressure them, then they don't feel like they're being pressured. So if you want to go ahead and think about that one and come back as a piece of homework about, reaching out and giving us specifics about why we're only getting 100 grand, it's kind of like, I think it's worth the mention. So bringing back that to the table on our next meeting and seeing what kind of response would be an interesting one. Deborah, you have a question? Go ahead.
I think one of us should also attend the next meeting where the rescue plan funds will be discussed, to advocate on behalf of us, so that not only is something between our council person and ourselves, but it's also public.
I agree with you, Deborah. I mean, I think in every particular meeting of city council, I think we should rotate it within ourselves. Okay, that means one of each we select, and then one of us can go to one particular meeting, and we could rotate, and we could emphasize the importance of funding, in front of them, so they'll have a little bit about what we think every city council in public comment. So with that said, it's a commitment that I would say I'm willing to take, to be up there once, and then everybody has that commitment, so they'll hear from us at least once every month.
Frank, Indigo, go raise her hand, and then Jose.
Indigo, yes, please.
Yes, that's what I was actually going to mention, that there's still time to, the council is still deliberating on the revised funds on this 29th. That was actually it was specifically not spoken about during this past Tuesday's meeting. And I believe the city manager actually corrected people multiple times whenever council members would refer to negotiations that they had tried to make for revised funds under the general budget. And so there's still time, there's still the opportunity for more funding. It's not like 100,000 is the maximum that we could possibly get for the following year. And I think beyond that, I think we need to think more strategically as well than just our commission. We have huge networks between all of us. We need to mobilize our networks to speak at that council meeting as well, because then it's not just one person or a maximum of 2 or 3 people, so that we don't exceed quorum at the city council meeting. But then if each of us brings 2 or 3 people, that's 14 to 21 people. And that's a lot of comments. That means that the city has to contend with it seriously. And that's how mobilizing works. That's how organizing works.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to uplift what Indigo just mentioned. And I think that is what we have to keep in mind, is that yet, as it were. And so there are opportunities to speak to our council members. I personally in communications with the person who appointed me the mayor, and very much is on board and supporting our commission and the goals of trying to get more funding. But there's a lot of different pushes and things that is being requested of them. I mean, one of the things is for sure the ability for this to be a line item, so that we don't have to push for it all every time. Is just going to be something that is going to be set, and was what was done with the emergency, the immigration relief fund, right? And that it took them a while to get it to 100,000. They increased it. That they advocated for a Vietnamese liaison recently. Those are the kind of things that we can push the council to continue to uplift. But yeah, there's still a very real opportunity for us to talk to our council members, but also to invite other folks, not just ourselves, to come out to the meeting or to speak, to call in and speak to the art programming. And though I will say that there have been other folks out, not just us commissioners, that have spoken up about it. And so, and then also it's really might be an opportunity for us to reach out to the youth commission or to the other commissions to see in which ways there can be overlap that we can work together to bring art programming with our network of artists to some of the ways in which they're trying to gear, in particular the Revive money. So I'm still hopeful that we're going to get some funding from that, but that's one-time money.
Joseph.
Robin raised her hand too.
Robin.
Thank you. So lining up to that and thinking strategically, like Commissioner Vu said, expand our networks. Commissioner Hernandez said, align and sync with others. I think we can strategically expand our boots on the ground by doing some of the things that are in the Arts and Culture Master Plan that I think would be no cost. One of which, for example, is under work to eliminate access barriers to arts and culture programming for all residents. We have in there, it says convene arts and culture institutions and residents for discussion about barriers. And so having some kind of, we did do listening sessions before. Maybe there's an advisory that we could create out of this to be able to have those people give us help us be boots on the ground and expand it. We also had under cultural equity, we talked about creating an advisory, council with leadership from a cross section of the community to engage in the research and creation of an initiative. So we could be looking at the cultural equity. We could be looking at some things to build an infrastructure to which we can allocate funding when we get it, because we'll just continue to keep moving forward with figuring out how to get more funding. And then it also says to survey local arts and culture organizations regarding the racial, ethnic, and general compositions of their boards to understand. So we could be doing some research in various committees. And there was one other one that had to do with what was mentioned in some of our public comments about identifying like buildings identifying architecture and other missing things that we considered. So maybe working with the Historic Commission and tying, again, intersections between other commissions that we could align forces and have more boots on the ground. So that's my comment.
So if we look at this as a commission between now and our next meeting, and if we're going to put some homework on the table, what can we expect from ourselves between now and next meeting? So it's just not talk.
Well, I'm suggesting, just to finish up on that, I'm suggesting that we actually create some advisories and we define what those are, and then we put out a call for people to be part of that and give us community input and connection to what's going on, and even create a committee to do a survey. Like Commissioner Harris said, we did a survey in our community, but they didn't hear. So what data could we be collecting that we could provide to the city council to say, look, here's specific data that our community wants. How do we engage artists, but also reach like consumers who are going to value and appreciate and support it, and also have community engagement? Because I too am concerned about some of the things that I'm hearing that are happening devoid of public engagement in the community. So how do we create opportunities for arts engagements?
Robin, what's a good example of an advisory on top of your head?
Like I said, there was one listed in our Arts and Culture Master Plan around identifying the Cultural Equity Initiative. So we can identify model programs and methods being used in other communities to increase diversity of audience members, exhibits, performances. We could do research to create an initiative, like it's a group designed to create initiatives that we need to see in our community.
Indigo, raise your hand.
Yes, and I wanted to thank Commissioner McNair for bringing up alignment with other commissions. So actually right before this meeting, the Ward 1 commissioners, along with Councilmember Fan, actually had a meeting. And it's something that we do quarterly so that we can see where we actually cross paths and where we can collaborate. And I am actually already in the process of reaching out to the Ward 1 Commissioner for Parks and Rec, who is also, I believe, the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission. And I think that that's something that we could all each do as well, like reach out to the other commissioners in our particular wards to see how else we can strategize amongst commissioners across the city. And that would actually, I think, allow us to be, again, strategic, but also more specific in our requests. And I say this in particular because I did tune in to the last budget meeting, and one thing that I gleaned from the discussion was that at times city staff need more specific recommendations in order to allocate funding in particular ways. And while our budget breakdown was the best we could do for about 2 hours of meeting, I think we could get more specific as well. And I know that's the purpose of these work study sessions, but the more particularly we are able to say, this is the next goal we want to do, this is what we have plans for whenever we have funding in, the more we're able to direct staff to allocate funding for these particular projects.
As Steve Mendoza said, they're willing to give us funding, but they want to know that the funding is going to go in a direction that's going to have results. Okay, that's coming from Steve. So it just tells you that, you know, we have to define the use of the money, and they're willing to give us money, but they want to see that we are going to do something with the money.
So I'd like to add two things. One is the advisory committee was supposed to be comprised of people who are on the Arts and Culture Master Plan Steering Committee. So we could look at those, who's available, and have a further discussion about developing that. The other thing too is that our Arts and Culture Master Plan already calls out where we wanted to develop a long-range cultural facilities development plan, that they recruited the Arts and Culture Commission Chair to be part of the Parks and Rec Master Plan Committee. So is there a way that we reactivate it? Is there a way we could reactivate listening, community listening sessions? Or how do we get connected to the community meetings so that we can have representation at various of those to get feedback from our community and just be present and generate awareness? Those are all actionable things that we could do without funding.
Just for your information, I do sit on the commission for the Parks and Rec. I am on that, and we had a meeting last week, which I strongly recommended that we should be having a direct relationship between the cultural arts and Parks and Rec. And I specifically said we should use the parks for cultural events and not just focus on 4th Street. And like I mentioned, every ward has a park. There's no reason why each ward cannot center around doing something with Parks and Rec and culture. That way we're all divided in a certain, divided, but at the same time, we're working on the same direction. But I am emphasizing that we should be working together with Parks and Rec and the cultural arts to do activities of culture in each particular ward. So I am emphasizing that strongly.
From what I understand, the Parks and Rec Commission is actually in the process of developing their master plan currently, and they are in the process of reaching out to community members. And I believe they also got a good chunk of funding very recently that they are looking to spend. This is what I gathered from a very brief conversation I had with the Commissioner Gutierrez, I believe. And so again, I think it would be advantageous of us because I do believe that the master plan in the works for them and our master plan do overlap in a lot of ways. And we could like use their funding to kickstart some events that could be used for longer term sustainable events for our city also.
I think that's strategic, okay? I think we should be working together with Parks and Rec, and because they definitely have much more funding than we have, to be honest with you. And we could piggy bank on them, and we could support them. And then when we have funding, then we could figure that one out.
Well, I definitely enjoy our parks here in Santa Ana and would love to an opportunity to visit and join with community there. I'd also recommend that we think about our arts institutions. the Bowers being one, Oca being another, where we could gather and both learn about the work of artists in our own community and these institutions so that we can help promote them, while also inviting the community into these spaces, almost like a welcome back kind of tour to listen and hear their needs, but also honor these institutions. I'm thinking of it. Oca, the Frida is another great institution that survived the pandemic and is here in our community. And I'm sure there are many more. But I would love to hear from our organizations. If you're listening, if you would be open to having us, I'd love for a list to start getting generated.
Robin, go ahead.
Thank you. Also, to add to that, perhaps we could get presentations about it just to create awareness for the community. But I'd like to entertain what are the action steps we need to make to create these advisories? Like to your point, Chair Gutierrez, what do we need to do tonight to say, okay, how do we call a committee to work on the cultural things? How do we call a committee to be an advisory? How do we start to do this homework, real and meaningful data collection, so that we can then come back next month and have some things that we could look at putting money toward. We identified it very broadly, but this was the time for us to dig really deeply into the various aspects of the plan so that we know what we want to do specifically once we identify funding.
I think the challenge is to look at what we have to accomplish and go from the simple to the complex. So we feel like we're accomplishing something. And we have to take, let's say we were to take 3 items, we want to make a dent into them between now and our next meeting. It doesn't have to be 3, it could be 1 or 2. We just want to make sure that let's put something on the table that will come back and says, this is what was generated from our conversation today. I do say that touching bases with our council people and letting them know, why we're only getting 100,000 is a question that I like to know from each one of them as how they respond to you. One, okay? And definitely, I've been like everybody, I've been involved with the Bowers for 20, 25 years. And I look at it as an institution, and I go there on Sundays for free, which is cool. But if I look around and I says, why isn't there a lot more community at Bowers on a Sunday, which is free? It's kind of like, why? Is it because it's not inviting? Is it because we're not doing something that brings in more of the community? I mean, I've seen their events where they have entertainment and they have music and it brings a lot of people. Is that something we need to do more often? Or do we need to invite the Bowers to tell us how we could make it more accommodating to the community and bring them in and asking them, what can you do so we could have a more engaging activity? And the same thing with Oca. It's kind of like, let's bring Oca on the table. Hey, how are we going to open Oca up for more community involvement? I mean, Evelyn, which I know Evelyn, she's inviting the community. And I think that's a really good example of what Evelyn put on the table. And having that activity and fostering a better relation with Oca is, I think, a great way to start those relationships. So definitely that's on the table. I think the relationship with Evelyn is a positive, and we should move forward with somebody who's stepping up. I'd love to have a more entertaining aspect with Bowers, but I know Peter for many years. I've sat down with Peter and I know the history of the museum and I know where it stands. And how we strategically work with that, that's something that has to be on the table. So if I were to say, if we're going to finish off this meeting today, what do we want to accomplish between this meeting and our next meeting? Robin?
Sorry, I had sirens going by. So I don't know. So Tram, perhaps this is a question that you could help us with, because how do we put on there, like, reestablish listening sessions? We could set up a schedule. We could have arts and culture institutions sign up to host them in their facilities, and we get out into the community and we see what's going on, and we can make assessments of some of the challenges that our organizations have faced, and our local artists come to the table to have a discussion. We had how do we have to agendize that? Do we have to agendize like convene representatives from all city departments and agencies involved in special events permitting so that we can talk about the events permitting and the costs thereof and the challenges that are faced? How do we convene an advisory for the equity issues, an advisory council with leadership from a cross section of the community? Like those three things, we could start identifying and putting out a call for people to participate. Various commissioners could be, help lead those and bring them back. But what I'm saying is we empower our artist community to take on some of these leadership roles and thereby extend the influence that we can have.
Let me give you an example of what we could do with Oca. Let's invite Oca to do a Day of the Dead exhibition. Okay, that's going to be coming up. And that's a way on how we engage the community in general that, is a community that understands and has a very important aspect to that. And let's see if Oca could manage to do an event that represents a Day of the Dead, okay? And their exhibition, which I think would bring a lot of people to see what comes out of that. And that's a matter of approaching Oca on that particular subject matter. I'm going to see Evelyn on Friday. I'll see what she has to comment on that aspect. Any other comments?
You're muted, Commissioner Harris.
Okay.
Hello? Robin and the rest of the commissioners, why don't we create, have each commissioner head up one of these ideas? Like we have 3 of them. We can't all go and meet on one item. So how about we pick 2 of us to go with each one of these 3 items that you brought up just now and have us be the lead to go ahead and reach out and try to get community members to join in, and we'll start to organize a meeting. And we can pick different nonprofits here in town to have those meetings, and then we can gather information and bring that back to the group for our next meeting. People are traveling for summer, but a lot of people are still in town. And I think if we split it up and we had some nice get-togethers, also just to kind of rekindle some friendships and relationships after COVID, that could be really helpful. And I would love to be able to work with another commission member to meet with community and to gather information on where we should go next and get their feedback and just kind of get everybody to the table again. Because, although money is disheartening at times, we still have each other. We still have our intellect, we have our energy, we have all the things that we can bring. So I just think we need to get excited about the fact that we're here together, we have this opportunity. And I love your ideas, Robin, to just carve out those 3 items and just let us split them up and let us go to work instead of just being passive here.
Deborah?
Yes. I also am wondering, we've talked a lot about other, like the Parks and Rec department or operations, but what about our business association, chambers of commerce, for instance? Have there been any previous relationships between, the arts organizations here in Santa Ana and the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, or could there be? Are there any things we should be aware of if we were to cultivate a relationship there?
Cram?
I'm going to defer to Mark because he works a lot closer with the chambers of our Santa Ana Chamber of Commerce.
The Chamber of Commerce has never really delved into the arts. Like most organizations in the city, they're looking for funding as well. I know, the Downtown Business Associations, Downtown Inc., Santa Ana Business Council, they do have an art component to their programming. But yeah, we could definitely reach out to the chamber to see if that's something they would be interested in. And another idea, and I think the chair brought it up, was highlighting the arts organizations in the city, maybe inviting them to a commission meeting to just introduce themselves to you guys as a commission. A lot of times these arts organizations also have funding that need to be spent, and they might want to reach out and say, okay, Arts Commission, I'm this person, this is what we want to do. Can you help us? So maybe we can do it on a monthly basis where you guys can establish a list of who you would like to see come and give a just brief presentation, introduce themselves to you, and you guys can have a healthy discussion with them. So that's something that we can do for the future as well.
Just one other question. There was a presentation by the GROW organization. I think I'm getting that right. Maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. I watched some of it, but I did notice that there were quite a few mentions of how important the arts were to attracting people to stay in hotels in Santa Ana and I'm just curious if you think maybe there's somebody, maybe they're not the Chamber of Commerce, but they're part of the GROW organization or related that we could connect with.
And one of the organizations that is just now forming is called Travel Santa Ana. Yeah. And that was something that, the city in partnership with the Chamber and other organizations created almost a destination marketing nonprofit that is formed by taxing, people that come into the hotels. And so that entity, like I said, is now being formed. They're looking for an executive director. I think there's a great partnership, with Travel Santa Ana, because what are they trying to do? They're trying to bring people in. And when people are here, they're going to want to see arts. They're going to, go to cultural events. So I think that's a great tie-in. I could definitely let everyone, and through TRAM, I can let everyone know when their next meeting is. If there wants to be a representative that wants to attend that. They are, like I said, they're in a search for an executive director right now. It's so infant in the stages. They have to hire an executive director, a finance director. The money just started coming in January. So as they're building up that pot, then they're going to have money to hire an executive director. So definitely a good collaboration with them, and I'd be happy to set it up.
For your information, okay, just to give you an idea of the value of Travel Santa Ana, I've dealt with Travel Costa Mesa, okay? Travel Costa Mesa has given us $20,000 to spend on a 2-day event at the Seagerstrom with no problem. So that just tells you the power of those relationships. And they do it because it brings people to that zone. And so the money's there, and it does go through travel, and the money's coming in from people who stay at the city and hotels. So definitely it's something that's on the table. It exists. And basically, I think we're gonna have another event coming up at the Seagerstrom, which, everybody's invited, basically. And but that gives you an indication that we have a track record of knowing how to deal with this. But just like we said here, I think if we invite somebody from Oca, if we invite, somebody from the Bowers, if we invite somebody from the Heritage Museum, if we invite to our meeting the chairperson Gutierrez to speak about how we could work together is a good indication. And that would be a really good thing, that maybe in our next meeting, we can invite somebody to that so they could speak about how we can work together. And if that's a possibility, Tram, that would be a good component to our next meeting about how we work together as teams. You agree, Tram? Can we focus on that too?
I would offer that we have a registry of artists in Santa Ana that we could look at too, because we're naming some big organizations, and we want to also honor entrepreneurs and all, other opportunities, or just hear about some of the amazing things that are going on. So I would like to create equity and diversity in those opportunities.
In fact, on that count, if I can add one more detail, I know many of our arts organizations don't have a home. And so if you're listening and you're interested in being part of this listening tour, possibly, I think, we should definitely consider the Parks and Rec as a place for an arts organization to host, right? If they don't have an actual physical home at this point. I know some of our organizations did not make it through the pandemic, and so I would hate that they don't feel like they can participate.
As a responsibility to the committee, we're running into 7 o'clock in 15 minutes. I think it's a matter of respect. Everybody has an agenda, and I'd like to start looking at how we finalize this. I'd like to look at it in a way that we could conclude with something that's definite, that we can make a difference between this meeting and the next meeting. And let's start simple. I'd love to invite somebody from Oca, the Bowers, the Heritage Museum, Parks and Rec. I would prefer Parks and Rec because the master plan, which I'm involved in, is being developed. And that's a strategic thing. If we could give Mrs. Gutierrez and put her on and she's willing to speak about how we could work together would be a strategic thing for our next meeting. Okay, that would be one situation. And like I said, I'd love for you people, everybody on the committee and the commission to speak to your chairperson and ask them why we're only getting 100 grand and how we could get more. Okay, that would be a second point on that. And like Robin said, I think we have to make a list of the key players that we have. So we could look at the clear players that, we fund. I mean, the city, gives Bowers a lot of benefits. Like it gave OSHA a lot of benefits. Like we have all these schools that are art related that really, they're art related. You look at the amount of schools that we have now in Santa Ana that have all these programs that are art related that I think we should have a connection to that. So in finalizing our meeting, I like to say that, what do we want to come back in our next meeting so we could just, come down to something that we could concrete on.
So it
Yeah.
looks like we have homework, right? We're all reaching out to our, I'm sorry, I was right.
Go ahead.
We're all reaching out, we're all going to reach out to our city council members. And Andrea, you mentioned something about reaching out to local businesses or to do what exactly? Because I love that idea. I love reaching out to the community, getting their input. I know everybody wants to see more art events for sure.
I think Piggy, I'm just kind of working off of Robin's idea here. We need to bring people together for one. If the council members could agree to take on different groups at various nonprofits, we can contact the nonprofit organizations, see if they would host us to bring in groups and have kind of just a nice gathering where, it's not going to be all the members of a commission together, but we're in different locations. Maybe we could pick this with different nights that would work. So if somebody can always attend one or the other, we could split it up so they can come to one of our events. And then we can just talk to them about the vision for Santa Ana, the plans for money, for if we do get this money, and as we're looking for other money, how they'd like to see it spent. And we've had these conversations with people, through our online guests who've come in and chatted with us. But I think we need to gather get more data from our citizens, because I don't think the Revive Santa Ana survey was enough. That didn't put enough emphasis on what we need in front of our council and our mayor. They're not really recognizing this being critical. So I think we need to go deeper, and we need to get more intimate with our community, and we need to have these gatherings where we can actually get people, and also then have our friends come to these city council meetings. I think that city council chamber should be full of arts people, and community members and people wanting to speak on behalf of the better good of the city. So I think we need to come up with an idea to create some sort of a group that would be willing to go out and have these meetups. It's summertime. I know some of you are traveling, but let's pick some dates that we could actually do this, and let's invite our citizens to come in and meet with us. And let's invite, these nonprofits to basically, they could do a presentation that night too. While we're there, they could talk about their nonprofit, they could share their vision. It would be a nice, great meetup for people to get to know and become more familiar. I just think coming out of COVID, we need to see each other. We need to come together. We can actually meet now. So we should do that.
So at this point, as we're winding down this meeting, what do we want to accomplish between this meeting and our next meeting, that we said that we basically accomplished something?
Tell them again, Robin. Josue has his hand up, but I can add.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, so we were talking about, do we have to agendize it, Tram? Like to set up a process for getting, as I see it, there in our arts and culture master plan, there's three, we can do listening sessions, we can do cultural equity, and we can do looking at the permitting process. Those three kinds of things to examine, making the barriers to what the arts, how artists can engage in our community, and how our citizens can engage in arts events and programming. So that's like, how do we create those advisories?
Well, I mean, I think you definitely can do listening sessions for sure. And I think Andrea's input was really good idea, which is pair up and kind of do these listening sessions around the community again to get your survey. I'm not sure about advisory because you are the advisory for the council members, you know, and then to create another advisory to the advisory seems a little redundant. So I think it's your position to go out there and learn from the community.
It's called out in our plan, but it's not just it's an advisory about cultural equity and creating initiatives. So it's called out in our plan.
Yeah,
So-
but you can do that through the listening sessions. I know it's in the plan, but doesn't mean the plan is like the Bible. You know what I mean? These are suggestions, these are recommendations. And whatever, they don't really know our city, they don't know what, you know, they're just giving you this plan. And so I just think going the way of creating another body is just another you know, I think you can accomplish the same thing, which is just the community listening sessions.
I guess I was looking at it as strategic alliances and little pockets of people to go out and gather data and bring back recommendations, since we physically probably can't do it all ourselves.
That's true. That's true. We should have other people definitely involved in this. I think it's a great idea. to
Yeah, you
reach
can
out.
partner with them. You can definitely partner with them.
Okay.
So
if
that's
I could,
Jose
can get
has
my turn.
a comment.
Jose, you want to speak?
yeah. So yeah. So I'm not necessarily against advisory committees or whatnot, but I do think that it would be important to and maybe spreading ourselves even and not needing two commissioners to go towards one source. If we can each go to a source that could give us advice, or we can get plugged in. So like, you know, for example, I could think of El Centro Cultural de Mexico or Latino Health Access, you know, that both, you know, of which have been involved in some sort of art type of, you know, engagements, whether it's Noche de Altares, which, you know, did not happen last year, but could very well happen this year. And so that's something that I myself want to have conversations with community stakeholders to see how that can come about, perhaps not in the same way as before, but in another ways. And that's, you know, those are the kind of arts and culture, you know, events that don't necessarily need the city's funding, but they could, and there's all sorts of ways that the city could work with nonprofits to fund these kinds of projects and events. You know, on the personal level, like I'm going to be working with local artists to do a art exhibition for Colombians in the community and such. So, you know, at a private location. But you know, those are the kind of things that I'm trying to do on my end. So all to say that there, I want to really empower each and every one of us to go out, either have a one-on-one conversation over the phone or Zoom or whatever with the heads of different, you know, whether it's the Bowers or whatnot, you know, but also being able to go to, you know, to their spaces, you know, if they're having meetings, or partner up with our council members saying we're going to have a community forum where we're going to talk about art and we're going to talk about funding. You know, all these things can happen, and some council members do it and whatnot, but those are the kind of things that I would also suggest. So I'm in support of Commissioner Harris and McNair, you know, in trying to get you know, the input. I'm just saying that there are various ways, and also expanding the net to you know, get more folks, and you know, and last point, maybe not relying so much on the bigger institution, but trying to like look at the smaller ones. Like I wouldn't bring Disney in, you know, necessarily, you know, because there's all sorts of other, you know, artists and groups that we can work with locally.
Okay, as we're winding down, I really need for us to concentrate on 3 points. We're going to come back in our next meeting and says that we made a difference. I would love to invite the person from Parks and Rec, Mrs. Gutierrez, to come in if she's willing to speak on. Tram, could you give her an email and send her something if she's willing to be with us in our next meeting? It'd be interesting if she would be, and see how we could create a relationship. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Yes? Tram?
Yeah, I could invite her if you like, if you.
Okay, are we in agreement? Okay, that's a relationship we're opening up. Okay, the second point, I expect everybody to speak to your council people and tell them why we're getting 100 grand. Okay, and why we're not getting any more than that. And as a third point, okay, who suggests the third point? I don't want to say, I don't want to be on top of the third point. Any ideas?
I mean, we want to gather data from our community, but how exactly?
Is there a cost to
Are we
do a
gonna do so?
survey? Because, I mean, that was one of the things that we talked about. But Tram, if we wanted to create a team to come up with questions that we could get our own data points that we felt were critical to inform our city council more specifically, like Commissioner Harris said, can we do that? Like, even if it's a Google form, and put it out through social media channels and through your office and that sort of thing? Because I'd like to put that on the table if that's an actionable thing we could do right now.
The question is it something we could do right now with the funding we have? Because it's going to take probably some money from somebody to pay somebody to do all that kind of stuff, unless we have staff within the city to do that, or somebody's willing to do it for free.
I was thinking we would do it.
Okay, so we put it on you, Rob, and you figure out the questionnaire, and then, you know, get it back to Tram and see how we can lead it into our social media somehow.
Could it be?
Deborah has a comment.
No, go ahead, Robin.
Deborah?
Robin, finish your.
I was just wondering if that couldn't be a topic that we collaboratively do so that everyone's represented, you know, so could that be a commission meeting that's public, that our public can hear, and maybe between now and then they could submit questions or topics for us to consider in putting into that form.
So at this point, let's say we're going to work on maybe doing a survey, and let's come up with the possible questions between now and our next meeting for that survey. Does that sound fair? Robin?
Sure, yes. All of us can
Okay.
generate questions that we can discuss. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So we have 3 points. I think that's, Rob, Deborah, go ahead and give us your point of view.
I also want to put in the record that we'd like to establish a relationship with Travel Santa Ana. Mark, maybe you can share information at the next meeting or via email about their next meetings or how we can develop that relationship.
Be happy to.
And I have one other question, which is if the 100,000 is approved, I believe it's specified for public art events. Is that correct? And I don't know that those are defined. Right. And so I believe we either need to brainstorm in the interim for our next meeting how we want to define those or what criteria we would like to set. But I think the next meeting we should definitely be ready to finalize, hopefully, some of that information so that we can jump on this because our timeline is very short.
I wanted to say one thing because about this public art event, we already have people that are saying they would like to see the awards. They would like to see, you know, different smaller groups, artist groups doing events and doing things in the community. I think we should be partnering with those people and supporting them. I don't think this chunk of money should go to one event like Art Walk. It should go to a wide range of people who want to have events and want to do things to support the city and bring in culture and art. So I would love to make that checklist of like, you know, let people send us submissions and we go ahead, similar to the granting program, and we fund the events to help get a nice wide, you know, inclusive swath of community for that money. Okay. So just let's not think just Art Walk. Let's think wide and broad and start to bring in other groups.
I agree with that. Jose, you think you could open up the possibility of doing Day of the Dead at Centennial Park? It's a question because I know you've been, you think we could do it at Centennial Park?
Yeah, you know, I'm not, you know, in charge of it, or I'm just merely going to be, you know, talking with folks that have historically been, you know, working with it. And look, here's the thing, there's nothing stopping any of us or any nonprofit or group of people from applying for permits. You know, from what I gathered from, you know, police liaison recently, all you need is 30-day notice for them to like work out, you know, the permitting and stuff. You know, depending on how many people you need to have, you know, it's gonna, you know, cost, you know, from a few hundred to like, you know, a couple thousand. And so, you know, those are the kind of things. But nothing is stopping a council member to sponsor, along with their commissioners, along with, community stakeholders in their ward, from doing their own Day of the Dead, from doing their own, art type walk type of event. So, again, it's just really about creating the organizing model and the, and who's going to run it, who's going to fund it, and then running with it. So, I'm totally supportive of there being multiple art walks and multiple Day of the Dead type of, across the city, because every, part of the city needs to get engaged and inspired, especially after the pandemic.
So is that a yes, that you're willing to participate at Centennial, or is that just I want a commitment? Come on, just say yes, I will be. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, Frank, if you lead it, I will support you 100%.
Okay. Do we have the support of Centro Cultural?
I don't speak for them, but it's one of those things that I could talk to their, the leaders from those organizations to see if they could support that work.
Robin.
I was just going to say, I don't think that's a topic on the agenda, however, that we should be discussing or putting an individual on, putting them on the spot to represent an organization when they're on the commission. But I do want to say that to that end, why couldn't we do a presentation, Tram, at our next meeting and put it on the agenda to educate any artist who's interested on how to get a permit to do their own events? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. So as we're finalizing our meeting, I think 7 o'clock is more than enough for one day. So we came out with 3 items that we're going to work on, and we'll come back. Tram, let's put that on the agenda of 3 items. I mean, they're items that we're going to speak of for our next.
Just a clarification, Chair. I think I had 4 here, or at least, based on Commissioner Russell and what she added. So Parks and Rec Chair come to speak, follow up with our council members, survey questions to bring to the next committee meeting, and Travel Santana, and then this last one that you just mentioned.
Travel.
About bringing somebody to speak on the process for getting a permit. So I guess it's 5.
I think Travel Santana, Deborah, I think we could invite him for the following meeting. We'll invite Parks and Rec if they could come in, and then we could, following meeting, we'll invite Travel Santa Ana. So at least every meeting we could have somebody as a partner that we're inviting them to become partners, and that we could approach it that way. But if Parks and Rec can't come in this time and Travel Santa Ana wants to come in, they could lead in, and we could have them if we're in agreement. So that keeps us to, we'll leave it at 4 points, okay? And I think we're fine with that, if I'm correct, okay? We'll leave it at 4 points, and we move forward. Any other questions from the commissioners? No? Okay.
Oh, you know what? I do have a question.
Fernando.
What was the final outcome for? We were thinking about doing the arts and economic prosperity study.
Oh.
Are we moving forward with that or not?
We have no money.
0.
All right, that answers that.
Amen. Okay, we're going from 0 right now. Okay.
All right.
Hey, we're gonna panhandle on 4th Street, you guys. Everybody bring a panhandle. All right, I'll see you on 4th Street. Okay, so if that's it, we're gonna start, winding down. Any other points before I move to the next point here?
When's the next city council meeting that we can encourage everybody to attend and speak about the arts in our community?
More so, who's gonna be there representing us on our next city council meeting, since we indicated that one of us should be there? Who wants to take that decision as the first one?
Can more than one of us attend, or only one person?
Well, the thing is that if more than one starts attacking,
I'm not
okay, well, I deal from a business point of view, okay? But I think we could concentrate, just like last time when you made the presentation, Andrea, you made it, with your presentation. And I think it's better to focus on one person to speak the mind of the commission.
Right.
I think
citizens, we can all be there as citizens.
We can be there as assistants, and we say is somebody. So the decision is who wants to be there in the next meeting. At this point,
representing the commission.
Representing the commission.
When is the next meeting? Is it the coming
Tuesday.
meeting or in the following meeting? Because I believe they're going to be talking about the budget, not this meeting, but the next one.
Okay, well,
Right.
we can make it very easy. We're gonna start from 1 to 6, okay? So number 1, Ward 1, Indigo, if you're fine, yeah, I guess because you're 1, that would give you that responsibility. Are we fine with that, Indigo?
I would like to clarify which meeting we're talking about first, so I can see if it conflicts with my schedule.
That would be city council meeting, which starts at what, 5:30 at city council?
Yes, but I am asking for clarification on which date.
Oh, that's a tram. What's the next city council meeting?
July 6th.
July 6th.
And will they be talking about the budget on that meeting, Tram?
The agenda is not out yet, so we don't know what are the agenda items that will be presented until next week.
I think somebody should speak, for the commission, but I also don't see anything wrong with any and all of us, to, speak up and say, I support, Commissioner so-and-so. But I also have these things to add.
Right.
And I think, every one of us should, should speak if possible, if not the next meeting, then the following meeting.
Just so long
I
as
know I have spoken about on public comments myself. I know Commissioner Harris, perhaps others have also spoken. So yeah, we should all.
Okay, I just want to make sure that when we go up, we are a team. I mean, I want to make sure we're on the same page, all of us. I don't want them to find out or whatever that there's a discrepancy in the objectives that we want to accomplish. I think if they see us as a team and we're supporting each other, it makes it a lot more powerful, because the last thing I want there is somebody go up there and saying something that's contrary to what we're and the direction we're going. If you understand what I'm saying. I mean, we're free to say whatever, but I think it's to our benefit that we look like an organized team moving forward. That's the only consideration, okay?
And so the organizing, unifying content that we have was what the 3 commissioners wrote and submitted to the council.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I think, as long as we're all in agreement, which I believe we are,
Yes.
that's, the unifying piece of, of proposals, then from then on, like, I don't believe that anybody would say anything contrary to those basic principles.
Okay, so long as we're on that point. Okay, so that being said, we're finalizing our meeting, okay, our position here. If that's all, we're gonna go next to staff member comments.
But who's going to go? Is Indigo going to go to the meeting?
Indigo, how do you stand on being at that meeting and representing the group?
July 6th.
Is it July 6th? I thought it was the 29th, because the meeting just happened this past Tuesday and it's every 2 weeks.
No, it's not every 2 weeks. It's the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of each month. The next meeting is July 6th, and then after that is July 20th.
Okay.
Aren't they meeting though to discuss the rescue funds earlier?
Yeah, I thought I had heard several references to June 29th on the last city council
Unless
meeting.
it's a special meeting, but that's not a regular meeting.
In either case, I am more than willing to summarize the letter that we had co-created and make that within 3 minutes and speak on that behalf on behalf of the council, or on behalf of the commission.
Great.
Thank you, Indigo. Thank you. Okay, with that said, then Indigo's gonna represent us on that particular meeting. And if that is said, we're gonna move forward with staff member comments. Do we have any staff member comments? Pram?
Pam, you're muted.
Oh, gee, I'm not
Darn, I
muted.
keep forgetting.
Okay.
We have the deadline coming up for the South Main Arts Public Art Initiative. That's June 30th. Yes, so hopefully we'll get a lot of submissions for that. And I believe that's it. Yeah, that's it for now.
All right, no other comments, staff? No other comments? We move forward. Commission member,
Do
who's
you
that?
know by any chance how many applications we have so far for that?
We haven't received anything yet, but a lot of times artists or applicants tend to wait till the last minute to flood it all.
Is it possible to extend the date as a couple of the speakers had requested to give people
I'm checking in with Public Works on that. It's up to Public Works because it's based on the construction of the street. So if it's too far along, a lot of his artwork is going to be harder to install.
Okay.
Okay. So any commission member comments at this point?
Oh, we get to make a commission member.
Deborah?
Yes, I just want to applaud the Frida Cinema. They were on my mind tonight. They just had a fundraising event, and I believe they had a very small goal, and they far overreached it, $25,000. They just fundraised from here, from the Orange County community, but they're an art house theater, and we sometimes forget our cinema arts. And so I just wanted to make sure they got some acknowledgement, and I encourage everyone to continue to support them so we have this resource in our city.
Thank you, Andrea. Any other comments from any commissioners?
I wanted to make a comment. I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. I know that it was going to be possibly postponed meeting till next month, but thank you all for making this meeting. I think it was productive. It's nice when we can kind of banter back and forth and throw ideas out and talk with one another. It's a rare occasion because we're not allowed to do so outside of this this kind of quorum. So thank you so much. And thank you, Robin, too, for helping to always bring forward so many great things from our master plan. I'm new on this commission, I'm learning. And so everybody who's bringing up new things, Indigo has been attending meetings and looking at the budget. We have, Deborah, who's been encouraging and going out looking at the travel groups, and, all of our members here are doing incredible different things. I will continue to try and reach out to my community. As I said, I'd like to create some sort of a meetup with community so I can get feedback and actually invite those people to be at those city council meetings with us. I want to fill that hall. So everybody invite your friends and your partners and your constituents to come out to those city council meetings and be present, because we need to hold our city and our commission. We have to be held accountable. We're not going to be just doing nothing. We're going to be doing so much. So I'm thankful you guys were all here tonight. I appreciate seeing you again, and have a good rest of your month of June.
Thank you, Andrea. Any other comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I just want to say happy Father's Day for all the fathers and the moms that took on both roles. So yeah, and to my dad in particular, but yeah, all of folks as fathers and folks that are fathers. Yeah, I really I enjoy all the good conversation that we have. I think there's a lot of good ideas, but as in all good ideas, it's all about the follow through. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do, but I feel very hopeful, and also that we're going to be able to compel the city council to think outside the box and figure out which ways to fund us moving forward. So yeah, I mean, not just the art walk, but just so much beautiful art that we have in our awesome city. So
thank you, Jose. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu?
Wu?
Yes, thank you, Bianca. On that note, happy Father's Day, but also happy Pride, everyone. It's June. And I know we've got a very thriving LGBTQIA community here in Santa Ana, and I really do want to just uplift the ways that living becomes art and art becomes living for a lot of our community members in that way. And I want to uplift also the particular ways in which barriers to structural barriers that LGBTQ people face prevent them from accessing the arts. And I want to again reiterate something I mentioned in my first meeting here. I'd love to see more, specifically trans folks, active in our arts community, and to figure out a way to foster that a little bit more. Also, another comment to sort of bounce off of what Commissioner Russell said when you mentioned the Frida Cinema and the cinema arts. I also was reminded that VALA does still have until the end of this month their free screenings for their short films on their website, and I welcome everyone to check them out. I believe there's 7 films, and most of them are between 10 to 30-ish minutes. Ensure that you have a little screening with your friends, with your family, and enjoy it as a teaser for Viet Film Fest coming up this October, I believe. And also I want to say thank you particularly to staff for always dealing with our many comments back and forth And thank you for Bianca, especially today. I really want to recognize the way you were paying attention to people with raised hands and making sure that our opinions were heard tonight.
Thank you, Indigo. Anybody else before we adjourn?
Commissioner Vu, if you'd like to send me the link, the email to those, and then I could forward it to all the other commissioners.
Great. Okay. If there's no other comments from any commissioners, our meeting has been adjourned as of today. Thank you, everybody, for participating and moving forward in a structured way that I think we could get results. Have a great day, evening. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.